What is up, everybody, and welcome back to yet another RuneScape 3 Ironman progression update. Today we are starting off here at the Deep Sea Fishing Hub, where I'll be finally reaching level 76 fishing so I can catch those sharks I've been waiting for a very long time. But it was time to head to Canvas to see the Slayer Master to get the task of slaying gulls. However, first I want to at least get my things that I needed to still get to tier 60 necromancy equipment. I may have had the level to form the tier 60, but I still needed the bars. So it was time to head to the mining guild and gather some orcolite ore, and then head to Carminger where I could mine some dragolith ore as well. And once I was done collecting the ore, it was finally time to head to the artisan's workshop where I would finally reach level 60 smithing. While I was there, I might as well upgrade all my melee equipment, along with going ahead and make the tools and such for later use. So now, look at this guy. I'm wearing some form of crab armor, it looks like. I made my way to Varrock and bought a house. However, this was just to go ahead and purchase it. From there, I went to the Varrock Palace and overheard the Queen and the King talking to an adventurer, talking about some cursed lands. So I opened up the door and they asked if I was up for taking on a task with the great rewards, and of course, I said yes. That's when I started the quest known as the New Foundations.
A threat looms over the three Saradominist kingdoms. We have suffered through famine and war. We need time to recover and rebuild. But in the wilderness beyond the northern border, Zamorakian forces ready for the attack. The kingdom of Mistalin stands at the forefront. The other kingdoms can offer little aid. We are not prepared to fight another war. Even the city of Varrock is vulnerable. We must do what we can to protect the undefended lands to the south. In the near wilderness is a site of strategic importance, a vale that has seen countless battles. Claim this place, establish a fortification there, and be ready for the retaliation when it comes. Do this, and we will declare your domain a new duchy of the kingdom. You will rule over it in our name as a peer of the realm.
As the man said, it was time to build a fort and become a new duchy. So it was time to head where the sawmill used to be. But first, I would expect trouble since it was the ruins of the great sawmill. So I geared up and just to be safe, and it was time to set forth to the ruins of the sawmill where I would be encountered by the undead. My next objective was to find out if there was any survivors. Luckily enough, I found Bill, which it took some persuading, but he was finally convinced to help me in my cause to defend the land south of the wilderness. The first thing Bill would suggest would be to get his workshop back up to full strength, so I gathered the logs just west of Varrock Bank. Also went to Raggedy Bones where I would also gather some of the limestones. Once done, it was time to turn some of those logs into planks, and then into some frames, alongside with turning the limestone bricks into limestone walls. Now it was time to create the blueprints. At the start of this point, I was at level 25 construction. So I was already at the level I needed to start the player-owned farms. However, I can't see things half finished. So it was time to get to work on creating the workshop itself. Now we don't have the walls up yet, so instead we decided to start recruiting some staff. First on the list was a steward. Bill would suggest Aster Dunnett, which was her to be doing some work over at the Blue Moon's Inn. So that's where I went to first. I met up with Aster and she was excited to hear from her old friend Bill and was loving the ambition we had going for the fort. So she was excited to work with Bill and myself. She just needed to finish up some odd jobs for the Blue Moon's Inn. She would suggest that we find an overseer, which would then go on to suggest Sif, who was located at the Barbarian Village. So that's where I'll be heading to next. I arrived in Barbarian Village and met with Sif, whose business was about to wrap up, but then informs me she has been on the border of the wilderness many times and there is no fort there. However, after a little bit of talk, she liked my ambition and agrees to help out with the fort. She would suggest that we find a priest, who then would also suggest Father Flint, who was a soldier before he was a priest, who would inform us he's located in Draenor and that peacetime isn't suiting him very well. So it was time to head to the spooky Draenor village and meet this priest. I arrived in Draenor and spoke to Father Flint, who was struggling pretty bad to get the word of Saradomin out. However, he didn't seem to know what fort I was talking about, so I explained the fort was under construction and was crawling with undead and demons and etc. He was convinced to come back with me to the fort, but I think that's everybody. It was time to head to the fort and talk to Bill, who would then give me the blueprints needed to build up all the walls for the fort. I got to work after feeling like ages of building all the walls and gates. It was finally complete. I got to level 43 construction, and from there I spoke to Bill and he said, "Good work, the staff was just arriving." They were impressed with how fast I got these walls up and decided to name the place after its ancient name, Ferenthi. So it was known as Fort Ferenthi from here on out. Oh, did I mention I was now a Duke as long as I can maintain it? Anyway, that was quest complete. I received access to Fort Ferenthi and its facilities, and well, of course the Duke titles, along with 1 quest point, leaving me at 47 quest points. Now what I've been looking forward to unlocking this whole time, player-owned farms. After doing some chores around Granny's and being taught the trade of farming, I could now work on getting a bit more experience from rabbits and other type creatures, along with doing my normal farm runs, of course. I reached level 20 farming. I still had a long way to go for all the potions I needed in the future. I also needed to keep grinding Slayer because I am going to need a lot more seeds in the near future as well. Before we enter some combat, let's upgrade some gear. First thing I needed to do was make some unsold bars and make some unpure essence. Once done, I went to the rift and made some bone runes. And I think you know what time it was now. It was time for some tier 60 necromancy weapons. Now that we got that out of the way, it was time to take down some goals. It was where I reached level 68 necromancy and 41 slayer. The next task was to slay some ogres, but first, let's check on my crops and my rabbits at the farm. I did gain 2 farming levels from this and reaching to level 22 farming. Heading over to Yana where I would face down the ogres, I reached level 42 slayer and also found a few seeds. Not many, but it will start at least. Once more, it was time to return back to the Slayer Massacre, and the next task was to slay some lesser demons, reaching to level 43 Slayer and gaining some runes and maybe occasionally some charms. Now that some time's passed, let's check on those farms once more, reaching me to level 24 farming. Again, returning once more to the Slayer Master and Canvas, the task was to slay some more ogres, reaching to not just 44 Slayer, but to 45. Let's take a break from slaying and farming and head over to the Great Herbie Werby, where I'll be reaching level 38 Herblore. Let's once more do one last check on the farms, where I'll reach level 25 farming. Then it was time to set off to see the Master of Slaying in Canvas, where my task would be to slay crocodiles. But hey, this is where I'm going to wrap things up. Before you go, here are the banking stats for this week's episode. I'm hoping to get a lot more farming levels in, especially that I have player-owned farms, and along with that, some more Slayer levels. But hey, thanks for watching. Hit the like button if you like this video, subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you in the next video. See ya!